Welcome to this week's deep dive. This week we have the wonderful Melissa Newman from ASI. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate. I am honored to be here. So nice to meet you.
Oh, we love it. You always have such great content, and we're so excited that you joined in. And it's like the extra bonus for this week because you are the social media manager at ASI. And our content this week was on, like, our subject was content, and it was sort of like, how much is too much? We're all overwhelmed. Everyone seems to have a podcast this like nowadays. So like, what do we do? So our question out of many was, it seems like there's a podcast or a blog for every topic under the sun, from serial killers to the origins of cereal mascots. How do you sort through all the topics and find the best of the best? And you came back with, as you evolve as a professional, so does the content that you consume. I outgrow creators and brands, move on to the next, and the cycle repeats. Never be afraid to expand your mind with new voices based on what you want to learn. So much to tackle on that one in such a simple answer. So we'll kind of get it is like, how do you grow on content? Like, what have you seen your growth of? Like, what do you look back on being like, oh, that was baby Melissa who liked that, and like, this is the new me, and like, and then we evolve from there. Because I totally know what you mean, where you like, even just business ones that you listen to, you're like, well, they're so basic now.
Right. No, like 100%. So I think like sometimes you're in a certain place and don't you feel like you just gravitate towards like a creator? Like they just speak to you, whether it's like like their personality. Maybe you're trying to look for a answer to a question that you have. So like when I started out in promo, or I should kind of say business, because I came from healthcare, I was listening to a lot of different podcasts from entrepreneurs, and I was learning about people and like kind of startup culture and people doing like 80-hour weeks and crafting like these amazing apps just because I was so fascinated by it. But now as a professional that I'm in, the business industry, promotional products, I'm, a lot of times collaborating with like interdisciplinary teams of different digital marketers, and specifically like my niche is social. I've refined, like there's some people like, I know a lot of people love him. I just don't really listen to Gary Vee anymore just because, I want to have my hearing for the rest of my life. It's very like, there's some of the stuff that he talks about where it's like, it is really helpful, but I'm looking more for, I guess, advanced strategies. Like I think a lot of the content that he produces, because he is so prolific, and I give him that, he's definitely great, is more for like a broader audience. So for someone like myself, I'm kind of looking at creators or people who are offering information that's more relevant to promo, because I really want to serve our audience well at ASI. Like I feel like they come to us for resources. So it's like, if somebody has a question that's really, really specific, I want to be able to answer it for them, and some type of content, whether it's a video, infographic, social media posts, like that's kind of where I guess I'm at, is stuff that's more specific to promo, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that as well, is that if you like, when some of these large content creators, like when they start out, they are very like, they're talking to such a small group of people and they're responding to that. But as they get bigger and bigger, is that one thing that works for one person isn't going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
But I also think you should also seek out people that make you question things and make you like go, I might have been wrong on that. Like,
Yeah.
I might need to improve my thinking, kind of thing. And yeah, and so yeah, so it's sort of like, in your suggestions for people when they're seeking out new content, like, do you have sort of a checklist of what you're looking for, even if it's just like fun, interesting, makes you think? And like, who stands out to you as like great creators right now for like what you're looking for?
Oh, that's a great example. I mean, or I should say a great question. So for me myself, for me myself personally, I don't necessarily have a checklist. Is I feel like it's kind of where I feel like I'm comfortable with something. Like I'm always trying, like when I consume content or any type of information that I'm using to create something in my job, I'm looking for like mastery. So I'm looking for somebody who speaks with a certain level of confidence, who has maybe the same results that I have. Like there is a life coach that I follow, which is kind of left, a promo, but her name is Natalie Bacon. And she has a podcast called Grow You. I really recommend it because she gives some really smart strategies for people in professional life. But she was talking about essentially like if you find somebody and you have like they have the result that you want essentially. And I feel like that's really important. Like if you're looking for content from somebody that is relevant to you, think about the results you want. Do you want to have X amount of followers? Is it another result where it's like you really want to streamline your business processes? Whatever you're looking to achieve, search out people who have that result. And then I think from there, it's kind of weeding out what's relevant to you. Does somebody have a system that garnered that result that's really complicated, that doesn't fit for your life now in 2020? Is there somebody else who took less steps, who got where you needed to go? And, they're more in line with like your personality and how you like to do things. They're more fun. So I feel like that's really a cool way to gauge if somebody's relevant for you. And then also, I feel like sometimes being a little bit of a skeptic, don't you think? Because again, like some of these people like Gary Vee or these big name people, they have kind of that clout. People know them, they've been around for a while, like they've definitely conquered content creation. But sometimes like you'll go to one of their offers, whether it's like a book they've made, an ebook or something, a webinar, and you're like, there's really kind of void of value. Like, like it's really not anything I can use.
I personally think, like, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, of like, I think one of the things about social media is that it's amplified how important you can be. And so I've been thinking, I was like, especially like your own brand, like you should always craft your own brand. So I've been thinking in terms of like, you should always craft your own legend, but never believe in your own legend.
I love that.
Yeah, you should always be doubting it and thinking like it's that line of like you should never be the smartest person in the room because you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should always think like who else out there is smarter than me?
Right. And I think that's so cool because honestly, like I think as a professional, don't you feel like you get more when you stay humble? Like there's nothing wrong with, having confidence in yourself and being like, wow, I really did a great job on that client presentation or that new social strategy we're doing, or, I landed this new account, like, yay me. But also like, you can always learn something else. There's always somebody else who has like a different skill set, opinion, or bring something different that you can benefit from. And I love that. Like the team that I work with and editorial, like we're all so different and we're all like successful in our own way. And I think that's, why we all work well together is we're all willing to like look at a problem, bring what we have to the table, and like respect that everybody's going to have kind of like a different approach, but what comes together is always like so cool,
Yeah. And it's so true is that I love that you said like we're all coming in from different places, because like you should also look at the content you're consuming and then look at the creators and be like, do they all look the same? Am I just listening to other white men talk to me as a white man or like as a white person? So it's like, get female creators, diverse creators, like listen to the spectrum of voices out there, because they're going to teach you things that you didn't know or perspectives you didn't know. And again, if you're the only person, if everyone in the room looks like you, if everyone sounds like you and you constantly agree with what you're listening to, you might be listening to the wrong stuff.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I totally think like diversity is big. Like I think anytime that you open yourself up to somebody else's experience, like you said, you get something from it and it's really powerful. And I think people, when they take that approach to content, it makes them better as a professional. And I think like that honestly is like, isn't that really what we're all striving for? We just want to get better. We want to do better for ourselves and our clients. So
yeah, completely. Like, and again, if you're not trying to get better, then especially because there's so much out there to explore and play with. Like you have your Social Angle podcast with Vin from ASI, and you guys talk about video, Pinterest, like you cover all the social aspects out there and how to use it. So if anyone hasn't been listening to it, I highly suggest it, because it's a great job. And again, it's that thing of like, I say this about social media too, is that this might not work for you, but this might work really well. Like you don't have to do everything 100%. You can find something and do it 100% and be really good at it because it suits you in a much better way, but also be prepared to move and flex and change your approach on different things. So, yeah.
Right. And I totally agree. And I think you make a great point because honestly, like there's so many different like strategies and tactics and channels that we have now because things are like digitized. Like we have, social media, we have email, we have SEO, like there's so many different channels for people to kind of connect. So, and there's so much information that's coming in. So I feel like, just keeping things varied, and being open to trying different things and, also being open to fail. Like there's nothing wrong if, you crafted a marketing plan and, maybe you thought you were going to get the result that you wanted and you didn't, and you just go back and revise and tweak it and then it comes out even better, but it's a lesson learned. It's not always, failure isn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be. It's not as excruciating. Like nobody likes it, but it's okay. It teaches us things and it makes us better,
Yeah. It's so like, have you ever listened to the podcast, How Did This Get Made?
No. Is it
okay.
good?
Or How I Built This. Sorry, it's How I Built This. It's by Guy Raz. And there is a section on every single one where basically Guy Raz is going like, how did you just not die when this like failed? And every response is like, it sucked. I changed my way. I came out, I pivoted, that like word of 2020. It was like, I realized what I was doing wrong. So I think if you're going in and like you have to be prepared to do something wrong. I mean, everyone's very scared of doing something wrong, especially on social media and everything else, but there's so much content out there to educate yourself, learn and grow. And I highly suggest just play out there. There's like, we complained about so much content because sometimes you do need to step back and be like, I don't really need to know this, but you made a great point. Is like, be prepared to grow and move away from what you were learning and learn new things.
Yeah, it keeps you better. And honestly, it keeps it interesting. Like, I think, especially because sometimes, in certain industries, don't you think that there's like a lot of longevity? Like where I came from healthcare, there was people who would be in the same role for 20 years. And I'm like, oh, they stayed because they're constantly learning. Like they're passionate about what they do. And I see that reflected now in promo. There's people that we have at ASI that have been there for like 10, 15, 20 years. And every time that I encounter somebody like that, it's because like they're passionate about what they do. They want to learn more. They want to master it. They're always up to like, be better. And I think it keeps it fresh,
Exactly. It's wonderful. So thank you. That's a great note to end on. So thank you for being part of the deep dive this week.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So where can we find you on the internet?
So, you know what, you can find me all over social media, but I would say, honestly, to find me on Twitter, my handle is Melissa_ASI. And yeah, direct message me. You can also email me as well. I love to educate people on social if you ever have suggestions for podcasts. So M Newman, Newman, think Seinfeld, at asicentral.com. But thank you so much, Kate. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It's our pleasure. So everyone, remember to join us on Twitter every week. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific. And we also want to thank our sponsor, Maple Ridge Farms, who do a great job on social and content. And they make this happen. So we appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.